I didn't expect much from the job listing. Overnight cemetery warden. Quiet work. Rules posted on site. I was broke. Out of options. So I called. No interview, just an address, a time, and one instruction. Do not be late. The cemetery was old. Ancient really. The kind with rusted gates, angel statues missing their faces, and ground that seemed too soft in places. The gate creaked open on its own as I approached. I told myself it was the wind. A small wooden shack stood near the entrance. Inside, a single desk, a busted lantern, a binder with brittle pages, and a security uniform that looked decades old. On the desk, a single sheet of paper read, "Rules for the Warden." The rules were typed, faint and yellowed. Rule 1, clock in by 11:55 p.m. Rule 2, walk the inner path clockwise, never counterclockwise. Rule 3, if a grave is open, do not look inside. Rule 4, if you hear someone calling your name, do not answer. Rule 5, at 3:33 a.m., return to the shack and wait. No matter what, there were more rules, but something about the fifth one chilled me. Wait. For what? I shook it off, put on the musty uniform, and clipped the flashlight to my belt. I turned to leave, and spotted a single coin resting on the desk. Faceless. Silver. I picked it up. Cold. Too cold. Like it had been buried in ice. I shoved it in my pocket and stepped into the graveyard. My boots crunched against gravel as I began walking the path, clockwise, just like the rules said. The fog rolled in around midnight. Thick, silent. My flashlight barely cut through it. Statues loomed like watchers. I passed a grave with fresh dirt. The name was scratched out. The date of death. Tomorrow. I kept moving. Don't look back. Don't talk. Don't stop. That's what I told myself. Somewhere in the fog, I heard humming. A lullaby almost. But wrong. Stretched. Slurred. Like it was being sung through soil. The flashlight flickered as I reached the oldest row of graves. These didn't have names. Just numbers carved in the stones and scratches. Long, desperate claw marks across the granite. One of the graves was open. I averted my eyes. I wanted to look. My body screamed to. But I tightened my grip on the flashlight and walked faster. Something behind me whispered my name. Not shouted. Just breathed. Elijah. I didn't answer. I passed the grave, didn't look, didn't speak. But I could feel something watching. Breathing. I reached the north end of the cemetery, where the trees grew too close and moss clung to every stone like skin. A low chime echoed through the fog. Not from a bell, from beneath the ground. It rang once, then again closer. I checked my watch. 1:12 a.m. Still hours to go. I didn't realize I'd stopped walking. I turned to resume the path, and there it was. On the ground. In the dirt. That same faceless silver coin. But I'd pocketed it. I reached for it. My pocket was empty. I didn't pick it up. Not this time. I stepped around it, careful not to let it touch my boots. The air grew colder. The kind of cold that feels like it's pressing against your bones, not your skin. A statue on my right had moved. I swear it had. Before, its arms were open. Now they were crossed over its chest. Its head tilted down, like it was staring at the ground, or something beneath it. Another rule floated back into my mind. If a statue is facing you, don't blink. I stared. My eyes burned. My breath fogged the air. The statue didn't move. Not while I looked. I forced myself to step backward, eyes still locked. Once it was behind me, I blinked. My vision blurred for just a second, then cleared. The statue was gone. Not shattered. Not knocked over. Just gone. I tried not to panic. Just finish the loop. Finish the loop and return to the shack. I passed a row of children's graves. Each had a toy left on the stone. Except one. It had something else, a single gleaming silver coin. I moved faster. No more stopping. No more looking. But then I heard the sound again. Ching. Metal on stone. It wasn't behind me anymore. It was ahead. I turned the final corner of the loop. The fog had thinned just enough to see the shack. Its door was open. The light inside was flickering wildly. And on the step, 3 silver coins stacked neatly, waiting. I stared at the stack of coins. Same size, same faceless surface, perfectly balanced. Something about them felt wrong, like they weren't placed, they had grown there. I stepped over them, careful not to knock the stack. Inside the shack, the old lantern flickered violently. Shadows danced across the walls. The rule sheet on the desk was gone. In its place, a new sheet of paper, still warm, like it had just come out of a printer. Midnight revision, additional rules. The rules weren't the same. They'd changed, as if they'd been updated for me. Rule 6, if you find more than 1 coin, do not take them. Rule 7, if the graves hum, leave the row immediately. Rule 8, at 2:22 a.m., do not be inside any structure. Rule 9, the name on the headstone closest to your heart will change. Ignore it. Rule 10, if the coin speaks, you're already too late. I reread that last one. If the coin speaks? What kind of sick joke was this? I laughed, just once bitterly. That's when the radio on the wall, one that hadn't worked all night, crackled to life. At first, just static, then a low voice layered with distortion. He sees you, Elijah. You shouldn't have brought it back. My blood ran cold. I didn't bring anyone, then I realized. It didn't mean a person. I dumped out my pockets. The coin was gone again. Or was it ever in my pocket at all? On the desk, beside the new rule sheet, it now sat. Like it had always been there. Like it was listening. The second loop began. This time, the path felt longer. The fog denser. I passed the children's graves again. Now all of them had coins on top. Balanced. Almost smiling. As if they had chosen those graves. The air felt heavy. The silence wasn't empty, it watched. I approached a row of graves that buzzed softly. A hum. Melodic. I backed away. Rule 7. Leave if the graves hum. I obeyed. But the humming followed. I turned sharply to the side path, not part of the main loop. My feet carried me before my brain decided. Something was calling me deeper in. I didn't hear it. I felt it. A low pull like gravity whispering, "Come closer." He waits. The deeper path wasn't marked. No lights, no lantern posts. Just crooked trees and half-buried stones. One grave was cracked open, not fresh, not old. Like something had crawled out. Something moved in the shadows. Too low to be a man, too fast to be a deer. It didn't break twigs. Didn't leave prints. It just watched from behind headstones. Close. Closer. I turned my light, nothing. But the smell hit me. Damp soil, rotting cloth, and something metallic, like blood or old coins. I gripped the flashlight tighter, knuckles pale. The humming returned, but this time layered with voices. Murmuring beneath it. Names. Mine. Others. One name repeated again and again. I leaned closer to the nearest grave to hear. Elijah. I flinched back. The name was carved into the stone. My full name. The dates? My birth year, and tonight. No one could have carved it that fast. Unless it had always been there. I backed away. Gravel crunched behind me. I spun around, ready to swing the flashlight. No one. Only the coin, right at my feet. I didn't hear it fall. It had just appeared. I stared. The coin began to spin. Slowly. Not from the wind. It moved like it was being watched or watched back. The humming turned into faint laughter, and my name echoed again. I kicked the coin into the grass. It didn't stop spinning. It just vanished into the dirt like it had sunk in. Gone. As if it never existed, but I knew better now. It was always here. A bell rang. Not from a church, but deep within the earth. 2:21 a.m. I checked my watch. A minute left until Rule 8 kicked in. Do not be inside any structure. I ran. The shack was in view, but the door slammed shut on its own. Something pounded from inside, something big. I sprinted past it and into the open grass. My heart pounded in sync with the pounding behind me. I collapsed on the ground, lungs burning. Behind me, the shack groaned. The door slowly creaked open, but no one stepped out. Only a shadow stretched from the doorway, longer than any human silhouette. Then it retreated. The air lightened. Crickets returned. It was 2:23 a.m. Rule 8 was real, but why? What was in the shack that couldn't be seen during that minute? Or what used it? The flashlight flickered. I slapped it, but the light died. I pulled out my phone. No signal. No flashlight app. Just the lock screen, which had changed. It showed the coin, spinning slowly. And below it a countdown. 117, 116, 1:15. But counting down to what? I locked the screen. When I looked up, something was now sitting on the closest grave. Not moving. Not breathing. Just waiting. I squinted through the fog. It was shaped like a man, but hollow. Empty eye sockets. Clothes torn. In one hand, it held a lantern. In the other, yes, another coin. It pointed at me. Didn't speak. Just pointed. I took a step back. Its lantern flared to life, an eerie green-blue glow. All around me, graves began to hum again. Soft, then louder. Each hum pulsing like a heartbeat beneath my feet. I tried to run but stumbled. The ground under me shifted, like something was crawling beneath the soil, trying to reach the surface. I heard it whisper from under the earth, "Give it back." The coin. But I didn't have it. Not anymore. The humming stopped. Silence pressed in. Then, without warning, graves began opening one by one. Slowly. Not dirt being thrown, just lids sliding back. Inside, each wasn't a body. Just objects. Items from different lives. An old doll, a locket, a photo burned at the edges, and coins. All coins. Piled inside each open grave like offerings. The man-thing on the grave finally moved. It didn't walk. It glided forward, lantern swaying. It didn't blink. Just pointed again, at my chest. I looked down. A coin in my shirt pocket. But I hadn't put it there. I pulled the coin from my pocket. It was cold, freezing. My fingers stuck to it slightly, like it had been in ice, but it hadn't. It had been on me, and I didn't even feel it until now. The faceless figure stepped closer. I backed away. It stopped. Then slowly it held out its hand, offering its coin to me. Was this an exchange? Or maybe a trap? I raised my coin. Its twin. Same markings, or lack of them. Just smooth, polished silver. But mine pulsed with heat now. The figure tilted its head, waiting, testing me. The moment I dropped the coin into its hand, everything shifted. The cemetery spun. The graves blurred. For a second, I wasn't in the world anymore. Just blackness and the sound of chanting. I woke up on the ground, alone. The figure was gone, but the graves that had opened were now closed. No sign they'd ever moved. The coin was back in my pocket, heavier this time. I staggered to the shack. Inside, the final rule sheet now glowed with a faint light, and there were more new rules scrawled at the bottom, like ink bleeding across the page in real time. Rule 11, you've been marked. You may see versions of yourself, do not speak to them. Rule 12, if you hear a child calling from the well, leave the cemetery immediately. Rule 13, if the coin is warm, stay near the graves. Rule 14, if the coin is cold, run. I reread the new rules with a trembling hand. My coin was cold again. A wind picked up, spinning dirt across the shack floor. I checked the camera screen. Grave 14 had movement, and there was someone standing there. Zooming in, I froze. It was me. Standing next to grave 14, same jacket, same face. No coin in his hand. He looked up at the camera and smiled. The screen shorted out. The lights blew. The lantern flared in the corner, flickering wildly. Then the door of the shack creaked open again. Slowly. Not by the wind, by him. The door opened wider. I stepped back. My flashlight wouldn't work, but the lantern in the shack suddenly flared to life, casting a long shadow of myself, standing just outside. The other me didn't move like a person. He twitched, glitched. His head tilted at a sharp, unnatural angle. His eyes were wrong. Too wide. Too empty. Then he spoke. "Give me the coin." His voice was mine, but layered. Echoed, distorted, like it was coming from a tunnel. I reached for the coin in my pocket. It was burning hot now. My fingers sizzled just touching it. The rules. Do not speak to versions of yourself. But I already had. And he smiled wider. His mouth stretched far too wide for a human. It belongs to us now. He stepped inside. I ran. Out of the shack, across the field, back to the path of graves. My boots thudded against soft soil that felt like it could collapse at any second. Grave 14 was open now, but not empty. Inside was something twitching, something wrapped in my uniform. My badge. My name. But no face. Just smooth skin where features should be. The ground cracked beneath me. Hands burst through the dirt, dozens of them. Some small, some large. Gripping. Clawing. They weren't trying to pull me in. They were reaching for the coin. I threw it. As hard as I could. It soared into the fog, vanishing into the trees. The hands froze. Then slowly they all sank back beneath the soil, like puppets with cut strings. I collapsed. The air was still. For once, silent. The other me was gone. The grave was sealed again. The coin was gone. And I felt lighter. Like something had been lifted from me I didn't know was there. But the calm didn't last. Because when I looked up at the sky, the stars were wrong. They had shifted, forming a circle. A spinning circle like a coin. And in the center, a single, open eye. The eye above blinked once. A wave of nausea rolled over me. I stumbled, trying to steady myself, but the earth beneath me shifted, subtle like breathing. The cemetery was alive. My phone buzzed in my pocket. No service, but a notification appeared. Shift complete. Offering accepted. I didn't click it. I couldn't. My fingers wouldn't move. Behind me, footsteps echoed. Not one set, dozens. Marching in unison. I turned slowly. Figures stood at the edge of the graves. Men, women, children. All translucent. All watching. Their eyes were hollow, their mouths stitched shut. Each one held a coin between their fingers. They weren't ghosts. They were the previous guards. And I was next. A voice echoed across the night. Not from the earth, but from inside my head. Your shift ends when another begins. The cemetery wasn't cursed. It was a loop. A system. A harvest. I screamed at them, begged for a way out. The stitched mouths slowly began to open, threads snapping with the sound of tearing fabric. One word escaped them, perfectly synchronized. Choose. The coin materialized in front of me again, floating, spinning, offering itself like it had always been mine, but now, I knew better. Taking it wasn't power. It was sacrifice. Take it, and I survived the night. But someone else takes my place. Another drifter, another desperate soul. Refuse, and I remain here. One of them. Part of the soil. Just another name on the grave. I reached out. The coin hovered between my fingers. Cold. The choice burned me more than the heat ever had. Then I remembered. The rules never said what happens if you break them all. So I ran not toward the shack, not toward the exit. I ran through the graves, past the spirits, straight into the woods. And behind me the coin screamed. Not in metal, but in memory. The woods weren't silent anymore. Whispers trailed me, some in my voice, others in tongues I couldn't understand. Every step I took echoed, like I was running in circles. Branches slashed my arms. Roots clawed at my boots. The forest seemed to bend itself to keep me in, but I kept running. Not toward escape. Just away. From the coin. From the truth. I finally broke through the trees, onto a cracked, winding road. No cars, no lights, but I recognized it. The one that led to McDonald's. The real McDonald's I hadn't seen since my first night. When I reached the parking lot, the lights were still on, bright, welcoming. Music played faintly inside, but it was empty. No customers, no staff. Just a single Happy Meal on the counter. Waiting. I stepped inside, the door shut behind me with a heavy click. Suddenly the walls trembled. Grease-stained posters peeled back to reveal bones in the insulation. This wasn't a restaurant. It was a temple. On the tray with the Happy Meal was a note. Handwritten. Same ink as the rules. Shift never ends. Only trades. I lifted the box. Inside wasn't food. It was my coin. and it was still spinning. I backed away, but my reflection in the window didn't move with me. It stayed, staring, grinning. Then it turned and walked away without me. I screamed. I hurled the coin across the floor. It clanged, spun, and vanished. Suddenly, the lights cut out. Only the friars glowed faintly, casting shadows that looked like people working silently. Footsteps came from the kitchen. I braced myself, but it wasn't a monster. It was a teen in a McDonald's uniform. Confused. Are you the guy I'm replacing? They said someone would explain the rules. And in his hand, he already held the coin. I never gave it to him. He brought it with him. They all do. They always do. The kid looked at me with nervous eyes. You okay, man? I couldn't speak. I could only nod. Because in that moment, I realized something gut-wrenching. This is how I started too. Someone else watched me walk in. Someone silent, broken, confused. Just like I was now. Just like he would become. And the rules? They were never meant to protect us. They were meant to condition us. I staggered outside. The night was darker than before. The stars were gone. The sky was just black. No sound. No bugs, no wind. Only silence. And that silence was watching me. A shadow stood by the dumpster, not moving, not breathing, but holding something between its fingers, a coin. It didn't offer it. It only showed me mine. Because you never really throw it away. You carry it forever, in your choices, in your silence, in the fear you let live too long inside you. I walked for what felt like hours. No end, no sunrise, just night. And then, I saw the cemetery again. But this time, I wasn't outside the gate. I was on the graves. A new headstone sat there. Fresh dirt, fresh flowers, and my name, Elijah Carter, 1994. The date wasn't finished, because I was still choosing. The shack door creaked open. A new sheet of rules fluttered onto the desk. Blank, waiting for me to write them. I wasn't the guard anymore. I was the author. A coin landed beside the paper with a soft clink. Cold, unmarked. But now I knew what it meant. And someone somewhere would feel it in their pocket tonight, without knowing how it got there. If you ever see a job listing for an overnight guard at McDonald's, don't apply. And if you already have, check your pocket. If the coin is warm, you still have time. If it's cold, run.